Hi, I'm Sophia,
Hi, I'm Isabella.
and we're going to be talking about significance tests for categorical data or proportions. We perform significance tests for categorical data or proportions when we want to decide between two hypotheses using observed data. A confidence interval can be used in addition to z-tests in order to check our conclusion and see if our null value does or does not fall within the interval. The general formula, which is given in the AP test, is statistic minus parameter divided by the standard deviation of the statistic. For the state portion, when we are testing a claim for one sample and two sample tests, we must remember to state our null and alternative hypotheses in either a quantitative or qualitative manner. You can either use H0 and H sub A, or you can verbally state that the null is the claim that you are trying to prove wrong and the alternative, which we suspect to be true. Make sure to define the parameters and your significance level, or alpha.
In the planned portion of your significance test, be sure to define the name of the appropriate test based on the context of the problem. Remember, the AP graders will accept either the written formula of the test you are conducting or the actual name of the test written out. When we are working with one sample z-test, we are given one population to derive one sample from. We would say if the conditions are met, we should conduct a one sample z-test for p. When we are working with two sample z-tests, we are comparing two different populations/treatments and taking two separate random samples from each population, compare the given characteristics, and find the difference in proportions. We would say, if the conditions are met, we should conduct a two-sample z-test for p. Next, we should check the conditions for these tests for proportion. For a one-sample z-test, indicate whether the data came from a random sample or randomized experiment, and make sure it fulfills the large counts condition. Checking that all counts of success and failures are at least 10 in order to assume normality and perform calculations. Remember, another condition that is supposed to be checked is the 10% condition for independence, but the AP graders do not check this, so you can skip this part to save time. For a two-sample z-test, check that the data is derived from two independent random samples or two groups in a randomized experiment. Check the large counts condition as well, but make sure that you check the counts of successes and failures for both sample groups are at least 10.
For the do portion, we want to plug in all of our values into the appropriate formula. The top formula is for two sample z-tests and the bottom formula is for one sample. Specifically for two sample tests, it helps both for the reader and for yourself if you list the variables and what they equal, including n1, n2, p-hat1, and p-hat2, and those are just for two sample tests. For one sample test, you will only need p-hat, p-naught, and n to calculate the test statistic. Remember that p-hat sub c signifies a pooled or combined sample proportion. This is only used for two sample z-tests in the denominator. To calculate p-hat c, divide the count of successes in both samples combined by the count of individuals in both samples combined. To perform a significance test on the TI-84 or 83 for a one sample z-test, press stat tests one proportion z-test. For a two sample z-test on the TI-83 or 84, press stat tests and two proportion z-test. After you find your test statistic, you will need to find the p-value in order to move on to your conclusion and either reject or fail to reject your null. This can be done either with your calculator or the standard normal table on the green sheet or given in the AP test. Remember, for two-sided tests, meaning that the alternative hypothesis is just different from the null, not greater than or equal to, make sure you multiply your p-value by 2. Using the calculator, press second vars normal CDF and type in negative 1,000 for the lower portion and put the negative version of your test statistic for upper. You could also put the positive version of your test statistic in lower and 1,000 in upper. Then multiply by 2 if necessary.
Either reject or fail to reject the null hypothesis and make sure to answer the question at hand using context. If your p-value is less than your significance level, perhaps alpha equals 0.05, reject the null. If your p-value is greater than the alpha, fail to reject the null. Never say that you accept the alternative hypothesis when we are conducting these significance tests. You simply say, we have convincing evidence, or we do not have convincing evidence that the null in context is true or false. Thank you for watching.